Okay, well, this is my first interview feature on Pretty Girls Get Sick. My name is Nicole. Feel free to call me MJ of Pretty Girls Get Sick. And usually I do features of different women with highlighting and advocating about their chronic illnesses or invisible illnesses and disabilities. And this is my first one of 2023 and just in general. So I feel so good that I'm just jumping out of my comfort zone here with Yvonne. And once you get to know a little bit more about her, so I said her name, but where are you from and where are you currently staying?
Well, thank you so much, Nicole, for having me on this show. I very much am grateful, appreciate it, and I'm honored to be here.
Took us a while to get here.
Was that?
It took us so long to get here.
It sure did. It sure did. But divine timing, as we are believers, we believe in divine timing, and for sure, it definitely happened as we thought we would know, as we know it would happen.
Yep.
But yeah, my name is Yvonne. I am originally from St. Lucia, the Caribbean, born and raised there, native to St. Lucia, the Caribbean. Currently living in South Carolina, well, pretty much on the borderline of South Carolina and Georgia, but I reside in South Carolina pretty much, so yes.
All right, so I'm just gonna go through a couple of questions and we'll just take it from there. So when did you, what chronic illnesses do you have? Let's start off with that.
Sure. I have two chronic illnesses. The first being sickle cell anemia, and the second is what's called avascular necrosis of the hip. And so I'll start with sickle cell. Sickle cell is basically a blood disorder where the red blood cells are attacked and does not does a job as it should with providing oxygen to the different organs in your body. And so that pretty much creates chronic pain when the blood in the body doesn't get as much oxygen. And that's inherited through mom and dad. I particularly inherited mine through my mom and my dad, both of which had basically what's called the traits. So the two traits creates the actual disease. And the story I'll tell you later on how I found out I had it, because it was not something I found out at birth, which most people do. Yeah.
That seems very common. I have two family members that have the traits, and there was another family member that I had that has that had the trait, but didn't know until the other person that they were with had the trait, and then their child came out with sickle cell, and it was because of that. Doing regular laboratories, that's when they found out, that they even had the trait. So that was kind of
most people who have the trait don't know that. In the United States, after every child is born, they do blood. I mean, in the health department, they do require blood testing, and I can tell you what you have. And so where I'm from in St. Lucia, I don't believe they didn't have that in the time I was born. And so I didn't know, nor did my parents know, because they both had the traits. And when you have the trait, it's basically you're living a normal life with having sickle cells, but that you don't know of. But but the way I found out, I don't know if you want to get to that part yet. But
yeah, let's talk about it.
I was going to go into the second chronic illness, which is the avascular necrosis of the hip. Basically, it's where the joint doesn't get as much oxygen either, and it deteriorates. So for me, it's more of this is like the hip socket, and this is the hip joint, the hip ball, right? And normally the hip does, go around like this in the socket, the joint, the femur. We call this the femur, goes around. Well, in my case, it's with sickle cell, it pretty much doesn't provide oxygen in that area. And that chronic illness, believe it or not, started when I was a toddler. I fell down the stairs at the age of 4 or 3, 3 or 4. I can't quite remember. No one in my family kind of knows when. But that brought me to the hospital, and I had surgery at that age on my hip. And back then in St. Lucia, the surgery wasn't, well, doctors tell me today the surgery wasn't quite done accurately as it should.
Mhm.
And I was able to live well with it. Flexibility was great. But coming into my adulthood and my teenage life, and now in my, being in my 30s, it's starting to create problems where the oxygen is not quite getting in there properly. And so now it's to the point of being on bone to bone.
Wow.
And so I would have to undergo a surgery to get that replaced. So that's the avascular necrosis part of it, along with the sickle cell. So yeah, that's the 2 chronic illnesses that I deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, and so you got into, so you were very young when you found out, especially in the Black community, you hear a lot about sickle cell, so that's something that I'm aware of, but it's also an invisible illness. Was it difficult for you to like because that's definitely something that I touch on, just as I'm a fellow Spoonie as you, and I deal with an invisible illness, and something like sickle cell is an invisible illness, so no one's going to know that you have that you're having a really bad flare. And I have someone that is very close to me. I used to work in a hospital for many years, and I met him in the hospital. He ended up becoming my coworker. And like I said, I have 2 family members that had sickle cell, but I never really seen a sickle cell crisis. And I remember him just being in so much pain. And when I was diagnosed with my chronic illness, especially during the first several years, I mean, I used to go through the worst pain. I mean, and all I could think about at that time was my coworker. And I was just like, wow. Like, I remember him telling me he was in so much pain. And I mean, it was just like so bad that, he would just needed to be kind of like, it was almost like knock me out. I'd rather just not be awake than to deal with this. And I never knew how that was until I experienced pain at that level on my own. How do you function, just in general with dealing with that? Have you dealt with people that looked at you and just didn't, believe that you were feeling ill? Because it's not something that you definitely have to disclose, right? You don't have to sit here and tell people like, oh, I have sickle cell. That's none of their business. But have you experienced anything where people didn't believe you?
Yes,
Because
indeed.
you look normal. You know what I'm saying? You don't look
Right.
like anything is wrong with you. And I know, even though you said that at times you could have a limp, but like other than that, like you don't look like you'll be a person that will be considered sick or living with a chronic illness.
Indeed. And I do get that a lot for sure. Before I touch on that, I would like to give the story on how I found out I had sickle cell.
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead.
I think it's amazing on how that occurred. So coming into the US in 1999, I had a classmate who was from Ghana, Africa. And she would always come into class sick. She had the jaundice eyes, the yellow eyes, which is one of the things that we have as sickle cell patients. And she would always miss classes. And when she's able to make it, she's kind of looking in pain. And I asked her one day, hey, you were always in pain, and can you tell me what's going on, and how, what, if I may know how, what your illness is about? And she told me she has sickle cell. And, we were friends, so she was able to confide in me. And I noticed that the symptoms she had was similar to my symptoms, because prior to moving to America, I lived in Canada for 4 years as a toddler. And I would always get sick. As we all know, Canada weather is very cold. And I would always get sick. They would always bundle me up, and I would always fall with, have fevers, aching and all that. And my parents, my mom particularly, because, my dad wasn't around, but my mom would always bring me to the hospital and then wondering why I'm always so sick. And that's in Canada. So no one still at that time did not know I had sickle cell, nor did I. And I had to be maybe like 8 years old. Now, in America, people at that age, the parents would know that the kid has sickle cell because, they would need to give them the appropriate health care. Well, in 1999, seeing my friend in school suffering and in pain, I I went to my doctor and asked, can I get tested for sickle cell?
Wow.
And they looked at me like, why do you think you got sickle cell? You should have known that if you did at at birth. I was like, I don't know, my friend at school, she has those same symptoms, and I feel like I do myself. So they did it anyway, just to make me happy, but they was 100% sure it wouldn't come out positive because they feel like I would have known. Sure enough, it came back positive, and the doctors just looked at me like, wow, I've never seen this before. And since then, they called me the self-diagnosis patient that diagnosed herself with sickle cell. And they were like, never seen this before in their life. And I guess what has helped me is the type of sickle cell I have. And I've been blessed to not have it as bad where I need a blood transfusion or I need oxygen and that sort, because I've had friends who've had sickle cell and it's been very bad on them. They're always having to do transfusion. They have to be in the hospitalized all the time. And it's not a pretty thing to see. But I've just been blessed. My doctors have told me that my blood levels have always been near normal. Very few times I've had crisis, like I have 2 kids. So I've had crisis when I had my first child, my son. I was in the hospital for an extra like 4 days or so. I even went home with the pain. I couldn't even lift up a cup of tea after like immediately after giving birth. It's just like the crisis, the pain was pretty much under my arms and I couldn't really pull myself up. I couldn't hold a cup of tea or nothing. So it took a while for the pain to go away. My second, they had to monitor me very well because of the experience with my first, but I didn't experience, they had me really hydrated. I didn't experience anything, any crisis, but I did have back labor with her for some reason, because, she was just on my back. But yeah, so I've always been blessed to have good blood levels. To answer your question about how do people view me? It's hard. It's hard because they don't say it, but when you finally let them know, it's the look on their face is kind of like, I don't know why society feels like sickness have a particular look to it. And it's really sad. It's really, really sad. I would go to my doctor's office like I said, with my avascular necrosis to the hip, it caused me after a while to limp. So I walk with a limp, and I was walking to my doctor's appointment, and one of the agents, the healthcare agents, asked me what's wrong with me. And I was like shocked that he asked. And, some say, oh, he was probably just wondering if you needed help. I mean, if you're in a hospital setting and you're seeing someone looking ill, walking, minding the business, walking to the appointment, I don't know. I kind of took it as they were kind of judging.
Yeah.
Because they saw a pretty woman limping. They figured, oh, that's not normal. You don't see, a pretty person limping. I mean, like I said, you don't even go talking to a person in a wheelchair and asking them, hey, why are you in the wheelchair? Hey,
Exactly.
Yeah, apparently they have something that's wrong with them. So why would he assume that, something shouldn't be wrong with me, So, and especially going into the doctors where the orthopedics,
you would think that that's like a safe space or something.
No,
Yeah,
they look at you like, what is she doing here? What's wrong with her? Yeah, so they don't say it, but you could certainly see it on their face and whatnot. So I guess I got used to it at this time, but it's still out there, the discrimination and the And the judgments, yeah, very much is.
Well, it's a great thing, and thankfully that you don't experience it to the level that some others that I have seen in crisis with sickle cell. That is a good thing. However, you have been impacted, like you said, when your child was born, and you've had certain series where it has impacted you. But do you feel, I always say, like with chronic illnesses, sometimes as much as it can impact you physically, I
Mhm.
feel like that we don't emphasize how much it impacts you mentally.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes mentally I was just way more messed up than how,
Mm.
physically I was limited to do things, because I'm limited, even though you necessarily can't see, I'm limited in so many things that I can't do anymore. And
Right.
even though I was so saddened by it, I think that the mental impact that it took on me, was higher than that. Um, Even though you found out younger, do you still, and with the crisis that you have gone through, do you feel like like it had more of a mental impact on you than physical?
Oh yes, it has both.
Mhm.
It really does have both. The physical comes there when you're in pain, then the mental kicks in because you're like, gosh, I wish I could do more. Um, you fall into a depression stage. I certainly have been depressed
Yeah,
several times,
definitely.
and it's yeah, it's really bad when you get to the point where, like, you're young, you want to do things that you love to do. If I wasn't, ill, there was so many things I would love to do. That's,
Yeah.
like many things. But it's just the toll that it takes on your brain and your mind, and it's tiring. It's really draining.
Yeah, and depression
Um,
is a funny thing. Because you hear about depression a lot, and there's sometimes where I'm just like, when I would like look up like what depression is, or my doctors would ask me and I'm depressed, I'll be like, I'm not depressed. I'm not to the point where I felt like I didn't want to like clean myself, or, but there's times where I didn't want to go to bed. I feel like I've had moments of depression. And that could be, but it wasn't like I was depressed all the time. But I could have these moments that can last days, months,
mhm.
and it would like come and go. And
Right.
so one time, it was last year, and I told my doctor, and I was just like, I really didn't want to say anything, but I just feel like I'm kind of like really, really struggling right now.
Mhm.
And I don't know why I was nervous to say that, but I think it was just because I just didn't, when I would look at, I would see other people and they would talk about depression. I was just like, that's kind of not like me. So I was just like, maybe it's just life, I'm used to just having high and low times, and it's just life, whatever. But then I was just like, no, this is more. And my rheumatologist at the time was very happy that I said it, because she said, I honestly would have thought this whole time, all these years, I don't see how you could not have fallen into depression after everything like that you've been through.
Mhm.
So, she did help me, and I was, and actually another friend, I feel one of my chronic sisters was telling me about a medication that she was on. I forgot the name at the time, but she said how much it helped her, and that definitely made me want to go ahead and have the conversation, about, depression, with going on with this, because I just think that there's days that we're fine, and we've learned how to deal with it, right? And we just
Mhm.
learn, and we just go on about our lives differently. However, there's still times when you're just like frustrated by it. You're
Oh yeah.
frustrated by your limitations. Like, do you ever really get used to it? Like, I'm used to it, but then there's times where I'm just like, yo, even though I'm used to it, like I still find myself depressed when, or pissed off,
Mhm.
sometimes too, when I'm just like, I'm so tired of this.
It's
Like
draining. It
I'm
really
tired of
is
this.
draining. It's draining, and it's I can't even explain how much. And like for me, the same goes. It's I'm not always in that depression mode. It's
Mhm.
comes and goes. And thankfully, I keep myself busy, and have several talents and skills and passions that I deal with, and I do. So that helps with getting out of that zone. But there's times where for instance, when it's raining, arthritis kicks in when it's raining. And so immediately, sometimes even before the rain comes, you feel the arthritis. For me,
Mm-hmm.
it's in my hip. And I'm like, oh boy, I just want to stay in bed all day. Um, but yeah, it's not to that capacity. And I think as believers and myself, I just thankfully my faith, my optimism helps me tremendously with that, to know that,
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, about that, like the fact that I know that you're a believer, and I know that I feel like, when you go through something in life so traumatic, everybody gravitates to something. I was always brought up in the church, and I can honestly say, like, during this experience, that's when I really clinged on to God, because I just didn't have anything else, and nothing or no one else was working, and I feel like if it wasn't for my faith, if it wasn't for me being a believer, like I wouldn't be here today. And
Right.
that's just a fact. So
Yeah.
like, how has your faith helped you get through this?
Oh, it has helped me tremendously. I'm a huge believer. I really go deep in my meditations.
Mhm.
I love nature. I do my meditations a lot in nature, anywhere near water and the trees. They always say
So
nature.
hard for me to find that, like in New York City. But
Ah,
I guess soon when I leave and I'm in the South, I could find
there-
those outlets.
yeah, I'm sure there is one or two trails or something in New York. I mean, New York has a bunch of runners and joggers, so I'm sure they always have some places you can go that they love to
Yeah.
jog and run. But yeah, some parts in the South where there's a lot of trails and mountains and streams and forestry that I go to. That's where I go get my peace from.
Mhm.
And I can't do the things I love, like Zumba. I love to dance. I started Zumba, and I couldn't go back. Like if I go today, I can't go back tomorrow because I will be in pain. I will have to literally
Yeah.
give myself
Yeah.
2, 3 days to heal from that, what I just did to my hip, in the movement, in order to go back. And it's sad because, my friends from Zumba would say, hey, how come you only come once a week? We have it 3 times a week. And, it's just embarrassing to say, well, hey, you know, I just beat up myself in there with my
Yeah.
hip.
That's,
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like that's just like so real, because even when it came to, like, I go up and down on the scale, we're exercising, and like you, I love Zumba, I love to dance. It's just one of those, it's like a simple thing that just brings me joy. Right now, I just dance a lot in my house with my cats, and I just kind of give them a whole show. But kind of going back to like what you said, is just like, if I go and I do that Zumba class that one day, I'm gonna love it because it's what you love to do, but that it's gonna it's gonna make you be out for like the rest of the week, because then you're gonna have to recuperate from that. And God forbid, you have other things to do. You said you're a mother, you work, and there's a bunch of things that you have to do. So sometimes you may rethink that Zumba class, because it's just like with chronic illness, you have to really like know what you can't and can't do, and your limitations, and it's like you have to literally live your life like that, like
Like plan your life
you
like
have to
that.
plan. That's the thing about it. You have to plan like everything. Like, wait a minute, if I want to do Zumba, I can't clean later, I can't cook, I can't
Right.
do anything tomorrow, because I'm going to need to recuperate from this,
Yeah.
and do it and I can't do XYZ. So something is going to be left out. And that's what people just don't understand. Like, that's how I live my life. Like, I have to, one of my friends, my best friend, Nicole, she's always just like, oh my God, you plan everything. And I'm just like, I may go, I have to admit, I'm a little extreme. However, I feel like that's just like how I have to live my life.
Mhm. Yeah, you have to, because if you don't, then something got to take priority over what you really love, right? So,
Exactly.
like you said, it's so real. Going and coming back, like, oh, I know I'll be in pain. Will I be able to cook? Will I be able to? And for me, I love to cook and I love to eat. Matter of fact, I love to cook. But
Yeah, I see like on your page, you have like you had or it was like, I think in your stories that you like show some dishes and stuff like that. So yeah, I do see that you love to cook.
I do. And that's the thing for me too. So, it's becoming a situation where standing up in the kitchen for too long, and I'm a passionate cook. So, it takes me a while to get there and to get it, the flavors incorporated and everything. So I'm not like one of those like, oh, boom, 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 and get
Mhm.
it ready. But so
I'm
yeah,
kind
things
of
like
I'm
standing
like
up.
it, maybe on a good Sunday, I don't mind, but I'm kind of like, if it's over 30 minutes, I can't do it. I just
I
don't have the
know.
energy.
It's
Um,
hard. And even like, the standing, like I love to walk a lot. And, if I was able to do it, I would do marathons. I would walk more
oh,
longer periods of time. There's, ride a bicycle sometimes is a little hard. It's kind of like
I'm
your body
getting a
has
bike this year.
for that.
I promised myself I'm getting a bike this year.
Yes, you should. I
Yeah.
got my first one at a pandemic because there was nothing else to do. So
Right. That's when and yeah, that's when all the bikes were sold out too. So
I
all
had
the
to
bikes
drive
that had gone, but I said this year I'm gonna get me a bike.
I had to drive hours to get a bike at Walmart, and I was like, this was the only one there, and I was so excited because I was going to go out of my mind with nothing to do. So, well, there's always stuff to do, but just to
Yeah,
get out.
but like sometimes you want to find something that like would help you, but at the same time it's fun to do. And like you said about the trails, and you could go bike riding. Like to me,
Mhm.
like I said, my weight goes up and down, but like if I think about like if I just want to stay active in general, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? Bike riding burns a lot of calories. It's good for you to be outside. It's good for you to get natural vitamin D. So like bike riding just seems, and then it's just like if it's a hot day, feeling a little breeze on you. So like, yeah, I think bike riding is good.
It's a good exercise, and I would exercise more often as well because even going to the gym, I can't do much lower body workouts. I have to
Mhm.
do more upper body, and
Right,
you
right.
get that cardio in, and it's like so it's frustrating. It's really is. It really
That's
is.
true. Yeah.
But
That's
we gotta just think of look at the brighter side of it. Sometimes I have to literally tell myself, you know what, Yvonne, you have your limbs. Yeah, you may
mhm.
not be walking straight like you want to. You may not be able to enjoy all these things, but you have your limbs, and there's people out there who, you know, praise God. I see these people who on the internet that's cooking with their 2 feet because they have no hands, and God has given them the skill to do that. And I'm like,
Man, you're preaching right now, because yesterday I was in the gym right after work, and I kind of didn't like want to go. And I was doing like some, one of the machines with my arms because I'm very weak in my arms. And at one point I wasn't going to do it. I was going to just say like, oh, okay, I think I'm done. I did enough. And the moment that I said that, right past me, a guy went by in his wheelchair. He had no legs,
mm,
and he was in the gym. And I'm like,
wow.
here I am about to quit, and he just went right past me in the wheelchair. And I said, you know what?
That's confirmation from
If
God. Yeah.
he's here, I'm gonna get this workout. And I stayed like another 15 minutes. But I was definitely about to be like, all right, I'm done. And when he
People
just went
dream
right
movie.
past me, I was just, this man has no legs. But he came in here to get his workout on, and I respect that. So it
Yeah.
just made me just say, you know what, to myself, no, you go ahead and do that, and then you can leave.
They give me motivation tremendously, and I thank God for them because you know they go through this stuff too, I'm sure.
Of
But
course, of course.
they know,
You know what? He
little
showed
do
up.
they, yeah, little do they know that we are encouraged by them because yeah,
Absolutely.
it's really something. Yes.
So another thing I wanted to ask, where I definitely see one thing that we see in if you follow a lot of chronic illness pages, one thing I definitely see is about, these are voice of the patients, right? And they're talking about like not being believed by their providers, and it's very valid. It's very valid.
Mhm.
And you do run into providers that, just the same way that you choose to go to somebody to do your hair, or, the way you will look to, to go on the best trip, you have to take that time to also seek out the right provider or specialist and know when someone is not for you. However, I would love, even though I see that that's very prevalent and out there, but at the same time, I just feel like I have gone through that, but I would say that I've had way more of a positive experience,
Oh, that's good.
thankfully. And I feel like God had just lined up the right providers for me when I needed them, came into my life during the times that I needed them. And I just wanted to know, have you, I feel like especially when you do live with a chronic illness, you've seen the same specialist for years. Especially if you didn't move and if things are working. Have you ever had a provider that you had like a really good experience with, or that you stayed with, and that just really just maybe spoke life into you and just truly helped you with your diagnosis or just anything in general?
Oh, yes, I did. Actually, I moved from Connecticut, right? And so I was up north where I feel the advocacy and support groups for sickle cell are great over there. And so when I moved down south, that's something I had to take a strong, consideration to finding and making sure that where I'm going to go get my care at will at least have a sickle cell center.
Right.
And not only that, but will they be able to give us support and advocate for me as I would? But I have to say, down here did not have great level of support as up north did. I'm not sure why. It could be because of funding that the hospital doesn't particularly get. So when I used to get all the other stuff, like they used to have little community gatherings for sickle cell patients, Christmas parties and different types of things. While we don't get that down here, it's more so just go get your care and go home. And that's one thing I miss from that. And it's just not as fulfilling as I would like, but I still get my care and I still get, whatever medication I need to get. The only thing I'm really disappointed about is with sickle cell patients, because we could get into crisis any point in time, they typically have a group of people ready for us at the emergency room, because someone could come in there anytime with chronic, with a crisis. And after the pandemic, it took away that from the emergency room near me. And my doctor said that they're trying to, bring it back, but I don't know why they hasn't yet. So there was one time I went to the emergency room with some pain, and I told them, I'm a sickle cell patient, so that they could give me immediate, care. And I was waiting there for so long, and I was like, whatever happened to the immediate, get you on IV and get you some fluids or something? They said, well, yeah, that stopped since the pandemic. They were trying to get it back, but we don't know. It might be gone. So it was very disappointing not being able to have that anymore. Because, we thrive on the support from that system. So some states may have a better, funding and better support system than others. You just have to be mindful of, knowing and where you want to go and what hospital you're going to use.
Yeah, but I could just, I work in healthcare right now, and I could just tell you that there's, a lot of things that used to happen in hospitals are just not happening anymore with funding, but they're just taking a huge hit. It's what's sad is that the patients are going to be impacted by all of this, but they don't have a lot of staff. And the staff that's here, like there was just a nursing strike here in New York City not too long ago, and you having like nurses have, 10 to 12 patients, and it's the hospitals are being hit real hard right now. And I do feel like we do also need to give them a little grace because they are stressed out. And what's sad is just like programs like that will be good for us. They probably just don't even have the people yet, because so many people had just quit or they retired during the pandemic. So I'm seeing a lot of it, and I think it's just happening everywhere. People are just burnt out. But that's that. But I'm glad at least that you did have a good experience. And I'm gonna pivot away from that, but I'm looking at you and you're a gorgeous, gorgeous girl. And I know from talking to you before, you're single. So are you dating? And if you are dating, like, I have been a person that has talked about love and chronic illness a lot. And thankfully I have, my person found me. and I feel truly blessed. But I've always said that it's hard just dating, right? Just in general. And I feel like when you have a chronic illness, it brings on like all these extra layers that you have to go through. So like, what is your experience? Like, what are you doing? So where do I begin?
First off, I'm happy for you and congratulations on your engagement.
Thank
And I'm like,
you.
I was one of those people that really was happy for you. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Actually, you inspired me to know that there is someone for me, particularly in my situation, that will be accepting of my situation, my chronic illness, and be okay with it. Because
Yeah.
it's been hard for me. I've been single for 5 years now, and a lot of it has to do with me healing me and getting to know me more from my last relationship. And I've really been enjoying that.
Yeah.
But recently, yes, I've started back dating, and that's the part that gets hard because someone like you, and they, of course, for men, they see the physical and they're like, ooh, that's a hot chick, right? But then they're so quick sometimes to be like, oh, I'm gonna marry you, or you're gonna be mine. But you have to just smile kindly and be like, well, don't say that yet, because you don't know what I come with in order for you to know if you could deal with it.
And you
right?
already know that you have to deal with a certain type of individual when you know what you're dealing with. Like, I'm not always going to be good. And it's just not about, the physical. Like, are you going to truly be there for me? Can you handle this? Like, I can handle me, and I know how to handle me. But at the same time, like, you want somebody that's gonna, be there for you when you're good, but also, when it's bad, and truly care for you, and not feel like you're a burden either.
Right. And that's the hard part, is how do you sift through that stuff and find out who that person is? And so that's always an uncomfortable part to you have to tell them. For me,
Oh, like, when do you bring it up? Like, do you bring it up in the beginning? Do you bring it up like later? I have gone like through that, and it's just, yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't know when the best time is. I used to think that I knew when the best time is, and I was just like, no. You just have to go with the conversation, and it's not being deceiving. You never want to deceive anybody, so it's going to come up early. But sometimes it's even trying to decipher who's even worth the time to even tell them to. You're not going to go out and just put it on your profile, or just tell anybody randomly, like, yeah, by the way, on the first date. You know what I mean?
And not only that, but it's like, when you do tell them, especially if you're someone you haven't met yet, they start balling up things in their mind, like, ooh, like, I've tried it many ways with guys. One way I've said to them, hey, I got something to tell you. It's about something, about an illness I have. And they immediately, think of you as like a write-off, like, like I won't be able to deal with you, because I want a complete healthy woman who I could do things with, and go hiking with, and camping with, and walking and jogging. And you'd love to do these things, but it's kind of like, do you want to take the rejection now, or do you want to take the rejection later? But if you go, you're gonna get hurt, because what if you like the person, and the person, so much involved in it? It's really, really hard.
It's like sometimes you just get to the point, then you're just like, I'm just not even gonna deal with it. It's kind of like almost easier to be by yourself, but then deep down, you don't want to go through life alone. But I know that I did find moments where I was just like, I don't want to have these conversations. It's exhausting. It's exhausting even getting ready. So like, to go out on a date and to do all of that, I really need to make sure that you're worth it. Because if you're not worth it, I'll be happy sitting on my couch here with my cats in front of my TV, because the whole, to get ready is like a whole production. It's like,
it takes a lot of energy. And, I don't think, and not only that, but what if the days I'm not looking pretty, right? What if I don't want to wear makeup, or I don't want my hair, done. Like, are you still going to like me for me? So
Yeah.
it's all about genuineness. I guess for me, I recognize a guy who is for me, who's of course patient. Basically, a guy who projects the fruits of the spirit, the kindness,
Right.
humble, weak, and all those things about him has to be aligned with the fruit of the spirit. Because if he has those qualities, he'll probably have patience with me and be able to deal
Mhm.
with what I have. And I get, and I guess sometimes I beat myself up a lot with this because I always feel like, oh, maybe nobody's gonna want my situation. But I'm like, girl,
I think
you
that's
can still do
natural.
things. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can still do things. You're still walking. You're still like, people already don't think
You're
nothing's wrong.
gorgeous. That's like you're beautiful. And
Thank
nobody's perfect.
you.
That whole thing about baggage, even me, I had to sit back and like analyze myself. And I went through a period of time where I was single, but I wasn't emotionally available. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's good to sit in your singleness. Sometimes it's good to really take the time to heal, really truly come to terms like with who you are. There's so many people that have no idea who they are. Like they don't even know who they are. They're their job. And if you ask them who they are, they'll tell you the elevator pitch of who they are, and it's basically their job title. I'm like, no, who are you? You know
Right.
what I mean? And it's I went through kind of that the past 3 years, and I just needed to just like sit and just really truly have some self-love. And a lot of that came from just also just insecurities of dealing with my chronic illness. And that's just the reality, the impact. And just people say, no, you're beautiful. And it's just at times just like, I don't feel that way.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't feel that way. And you definitely would hope that you will be with a God, like you said, that shows the fruits of their spirit. And my mother always told me, and my mother told me this, so she said, McCole, the one that's for you has to love God first.
Yeah.
So for everybody else, just, when you're watching this, whether you're a believer or not, this is just my path. Okay. This is just my path. However, for what's for me is for me, and what's for you is for you.
Right.
But my mother did tell me that. She was just like, he has to love God first. And that's going to be the man for you. And I feel like she's told me that before over the years. She gave me like these books and I never got it. And then I really, really got it during that time where I just was quiet. And through a divine connection,
Amen.
a lady named HJ, I'm just gonna say her initials. My fiance, he's come through, and I can honestly say, like, all those things that I definitely needed, he's checked off those boxes. So I feel like it could happen to me, because I've never considered myself to be a lucky person ever. But if it can happen for me, it can happen for you, it can happen for anybody. And I just feel like, especially us as believers, just trust him, but just live your life in between that, and don't worry about it. And
Right. Don't look for it.
And look, a divine connection, it would just come. Right. So I know we're coming on time, and I just want to ask a few more questions. So, you and I found each other on social media, and I just, like, how has that helped you? Has connecting with other chronic, illness pages, or, just a community? Because I do feel like community is so important. And I know that helped me, because I felt very lonely. There's so many women that have different chronic illnesses, and they feel like they're the only one. And it doesn't mean to their other friends when they say, oh, I feel lonely. Healthy friends, y'all need to understand, when we say we're lonely, it doesn't mean that we don't love you. It doesn't mean that you're not my sister. But if you're not kind of going through what I go through, and you have limitations, and you have to plan your life in a different way, you feel lonely. And then the only community that you feel that could truly understand are the women or the people that go through things as similar as you. So have you felt that, finding, you were in my group the other night, and, we all were talking, like, have you found that has helped you?
It sure has. I'm so blessed to even find you. I mean, like I always say, it's divine intervention to come across your page on Instagram. And I saw the title, and I was like, Pretty Girls Get Sick Too. I'm like, it instantly spoke to me. And I'm like, let me go in here and see what this is about. And then I saw all the postings of all the, the ladies you had featured on there, and they were telling their stories, and you were giving all these, all the motivation and stuff. And I'm like, wow. And I was for a long time lonely in that sense of not having that connective group to go talk to, someone who understands in that sense. And I'm like, let me message her and tell her, let's do something together. Not only that, but thanking her for, creating this, because I think it's a magnificent ministry that I believe is going to go beyond what we're even doing right now. Okay. Like when you don't even know, sis, you have no idea. But yeah, I've just been so grateful to find you ladies and to be able to connect through Zoom and whatever meetings we have, and to post on your page, on your Facebook page. And I just love sharing already as is. So with the time I find something
I love your posts, and I love that.
Thank you. And I love sharing. And so I'm a motivator. So every time I find something that I could use for myself, I always, I'm eager to share with the group as well, because we all need that. We all need that encouragement. We all need that. And I could finally say I have a sisterhood, a family that I could go to and ask questions, and just know that we all, I'm not alone. I'm not the only person. Because I used to think like, am I the only one going through this? And it's good to know that other people like myself are on the same page with me in that sense. And I really appreciate you building this and obeying God to starting this ministry, and keep going, because it is just great. Like, and we need to market it a little more for ladies everywhere in Europe and Africa. And I'm telling you, there's so many.
I get amazed every time like someone says, or you say it's like a ministry, because I was telling my fiance, said, like I meet some of his friends and he'd be like, oh, so what ministry you have? And I'm like, I didn't know that this was a ministry. like I didn't think of it. Like I didn't think of this. Like, guys, like I'm winging it here. Like I had no idea like what I was doing. I just was just like, I'm just gonna go ahead and just do this. But that's a whole other story.
For sure.
But for the person that is like looking, for the person that you would say, like for someone that's been newly diagnosed, or a parent that's a caregiver to a child that may have the same two conditions as you, what would you tell them? Like, are there certain maybe this is like a two-part question. Are there certain specialists that you would recommend them seeing? Disclaimer, we're not giving out any medical advice. We're just saying like, would you recommend a certain specialist for them to see? And for the person that's really new being diagnosed, like even in our group the other night, there was a girl that she spoke about like, wow, I don't have any friends. You know what I'm saying? The people I thought that was there, that I did so much for, are no longer here. And I'm finding, like, what should I do? What would you say to someone that's been recently diagnosed and they don't know, because I feel like the people that like us as ones that have been going through this, like we should be out there helping. I don't know if we should be called mentors or whatever, but just kind of like bringing, holding their hand, just like, I've been there.
Yeah.
And I know. Because I wish I had that. Like I totally, like I needed to see a me at that time. And that was the reason.
Right. You want to see a like-minded people like yourself, kind of like, us being Black, and we want to, see other Black sisters do things. We want to see other sisters with chronic illness as well to get that motivation. I certainly would say to someone who's newly diagnosed with this, that trouble don't last always. And also to find a group, to find a support group. Come on to Pretty Girls Get Sick Too. We have plenty of space for you. And so you can connect wherever you are in the world, okay? Because we have now good technology that can do that. But yeah, certainly find a support group, and look for great healthcare providers that will be able to give you the proper care that you need. And depends on where you're living. If you can move, if that's available.
Depending on where you live, I mean, that is so important when it comes to especially rare diseases, man. That, and again, that could just drive a whole other topic because I've heard people that, travel 3 hours and to see specialists. And I know that's going to be kind of like what's going to be happening with me when I relocate. But yeah, definitely where you live, you may need to move depending on what you're dealing with, just so that you can be closer, because sometimes that could be a matter of life and death, because you can go somewhere and they just don't know how to treat you. And not to say that those providers are bad. No, they're probably really good doctors, but if they don't know what to do with you, or they haven't come across your illness and they don't have the equipment,
right,
or, the medications to treat you, like
for me, I know the cold was not for me anymore. So I say, you know what, let me take it to the heat.
Yeah.
And the heat is where, I feel more comfortable. Like, after all, I'm from the Caribbean.
That's what I was about to say, girl. You from the warm weather, of course. You was not feeling okay.
I love it.
Canada.
Even now, it's still too cold for me in down south. And I'm like, why is it getting down to 29? I didn't move for this,
I can imagine, yeah.
But it doesn't stay like that all the time as much as up north. It goes on. And like I said, living in Canada for 4 years, you experience the top-notch cold, and then Connecticut has its own thing too. So I'm like, if I can't be in the warm, it's probably not going to be, because then all the arthritis stuff kicks in, the chronic pains from sickle cell kicks in too, and extreme cold and extreme heat as well does affect her. So I have to just and I'm just not only that, but change your diet. I'm not saying to stop taking your meds. Diet is a big thing too.
Yeah.
I've recently discovered juicing, how great it is, and how
you introduced me to page, and I've been looking into that, and it does. You have to help yourself, and that's another thing. We can't put everything on our doctors. They do what they can, but then you have to be an active participant in your healthcare, and you have to do whatever you can, whatever way, you need to get better, and nutrition is definitely a big part of that.
It sure is, because if whatever it takes to just live, like I try to live a holistic, I don't drink or smoke, I don't even eat meat, so I'm pescatarian, trying to turn into the vegetarian thing. It took me a while to get out of seafood.
Send me some recipes, girl.
Yes, I sure will.
You should do one of the girl. We should maybe do like a cooking session one day. I started off with the Daniel fast at the beginning of this year.
How's it going?
Well, I stopped. I only committed to 3 days, and I did 11. In the beginning, I was a little pissy because I was out of town. I was actually with my fiance. He pushed me into it because he's used to fasting, and I was like,
"That's good."
But I would say that it wasn't that bad. And I learned how I always kind of wanted to incorporate vegan, because my family's from the Caribbean, and I have a few Rastas in my family, and some of them push me, and they're like, Mickey, your reason why you're sick, if you don't do this, you don't do that. I'm like, okay. But I got a little savvy with it, and I made some tofu. And what I did is I made some curry tofu. And I kind of gave it the flavors and the things that I liked. And it wasn't that bad. So I think the key to it was just being prepared. We went shopping together. We did it. So I was really happy that we did it together. And so when I came back to New York, I just carried it on. And it was my first time. So I'm definitely, and like you said, the juicing and everything else like that, I think that that's great, because I know I'm a person that I do not get the vegetables in that I need. So it's easier to do it juicing. I just get a little confused about if there's the juicing, and then there's what you'll have, say if you have a NutriBullet or something.
Right.
Is it the same thing, or does it matter?
Either or is healthy. I particularly say to people is juicing, I feel, is better. Why? Because it eliminates and takes away the fiber from the fruits and vegetables. And then when you consume it, it's able to absorb quicker because of the nutrients in the juice. And plus it extracts the juice and the fiber. I mean, we all need fiber, yes, but we need the nutrients more so too.
Right,
so that's why I particularly like juicing, because it really extracts. And if you get a good juicer, which you should see on that page I sent you, the Nama J, the J2
Mhm.
is the best one because it kind of it takes out all the juice in there. And
Okay.
to get myself one, I'm working on it. It's kind of pricey,
Yeah,
but
a lot of them good ones are, but I feel like, you might as well just make a
it's
good investment. Yeah.
it's an investment on health. Like, we have to invest in our health for sure. And
And I think
also, I
we
would,
don't realize how short life really truly is. I guess when you're dealing with something like
Mhm.
that, you have to take so much good care of yourself. I feel like I definitely would say I'm glad that this happened to me. However, my outlook, I was more vain before, or I just looked at the wrong things in
Mhm.
life, and it completely changed my entire outlook
Yeah.
on life in general. And I just truly see how short life is, and how you can truly be okay today and not okay tomorrow. And I'm always inspired. You inspire me, you know what I mean? Just like how, I thank you and I appreciate you saying, these wonderful things about me, and thank you for the page, but you have no idea like how much life y'all breathe into me, because I didn't have anybody either at one point. And there was just one person that I could talk to, and her name was Mildred. And outside of that, that was like nothing. But our lives were different because she was married, and I was single. And, I'm just like, well, what happens to the single girl that's like about to live her life? And, I'm here, I'm a workaholic, I'm doing my thing. I felt like I was doing it. And then just like monkey wrench thrown in, like, no. And, you know, life is just funny.
It
So,
is. And every moment as we get older, we notice how short it is. We have kids, we want to be able to see them grow and get into college and have a family one day on their own. And
yeah,
so those are the things that motivate me. I'm like, I can't exercise like I want to. I mean, of course, the exercise comes in many shapes and forms, but most I can do is control what I put in my body and take
yeah,
care of me as far as getting fresh air and drinking lots of water. And so, yeah, so we can do things towards our health, to make our life expectancy a little longer.
you're
Yeah,
right.
for sure.
Well,
Mhm.
as we come to a close, um, what's next for you? You first of all, you need to give us your social media handles, because I'm definitely going to put it in this video. But what's next for you here? Like, is there more advocacy? Is it just about just letting more women in general, or just people know about sickle cell and your other chronic illness? Like, what's next for you from here?
Well, I have certainly put in the atmosphere, and manifesting what God has for me this 2023. I'm going with it full swing with positivity, expectation, basically to giving thanks to the unknown that's already on its way.
That's
And
right. That's so important.
yes,
That's so important. Yeah, thanking God
giving
for like
the unknown
the
blessings already on its
unknown.
way. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because we don't want to just be thankful when it comes. We want to be
that's
thankful
right.
before it
That's
gets there.
right.
That way God knows you're open to receive.
Hmm.
And with me being a very positive, optimistic person, that's why, that again too, I try to stay stress free, which helps with your mental health. It helps with
Yeah.
your, stress level. For sure. I do whatever I feel that makes me happy, like the cooking, the nature thing, whatever that I feel that makes me sane, keep me sane. But what's next is pretty much fulfilling my purpose. And I can't say my purpose is along the line of chronic illness such as yours, but mine is more so in relationship. And so I love to help men and women together come together and have fulfilling, enjoyable relationships that they could enjoy with each
Okay.
other. That, and as well as I have some books that I have to write and publish this year, and I have a t-shirt line, and it's just so much.
Well,
And I have a
I
dessert
love
shop
to
I would like
see
to
it.
open up. So yeah, it's a lot of different things, but mainly the purpose that has been given to me is more relationships, because I feel God has used me so much so in that sense.
Mhm.
Single for 5 years, I think He was using me to see and to get to know myself, of course, mainly
Yeah.
heal, get to know myself, and get to know my audience on who I'll be working with. So
Yeah.
that's what's next for me, is just taking it one day at a time, enjoying life, being always humble and thankful, and just thanking God for what he's, putting me on earth to be here, and not taking it for granted either. I'm always being
Right.
grateful. A good thing that people could also do in the mornings is do a lot of I am affirmations. Tell yourself that you are beautiful enough. There's a lot of people who are, scared these days of people who are strong and very much know themselves. You find a lot of people running away from that. So
Mhm.
to those people who are dating with a chronic illness, just know that you are enough and that you are
Yeah.
worthy. And
Yeah.
write it anywhere.
There we
Write it
go.
on paper, put it on your mirror, wherever you got to put it. Tell yourself you are enough. And I just thank God for my self-worth and my self-love that I have for myself, to know that, you can and you will get what you want and deserve. So, but that's what's next for me, is hopefully love comes my way this year. And then
Yeah, I'll definitely be praying for you for that, sis, for sure. Um, so
thank
what
you.
is where can we find you? What social media sites can we find you at?
Yeah, so I have a YouTube page. The handle is Belleve Her, BELLEVEHER.
And I'll make
Or
sure to put that in
Mhm.
the whatever this is called. Okay, this is like my first YouTube stuff, so bear with me, people. I'll put it down there, like I see all you other girls that are doing this do. I'll put it there, where, the caption.
Right. Oh, the description, I think. Description
There
box.
we go. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
description.
not YouTube elite yet. This is the first one. Bear with
But
me.
thank you there, sis. You
The
on your
other
way.
videos and interviews will get better. Relax.
You're on your way. You're very much on your way with it. Trust me. But yeah, Believe, you could do it on the BELLEVE or Believe Her. I'm on TikTok under Believe as well, BELLEVE. And then I have Instagram Miss_Believe. That's MS_Believe. And I think that's pretty much those two things. And if you have, I have a t-shirt line that I like to design t-shirts. If you'd like to order anything, that is www.believe.org.
Thank you. Well, I will make sure to
Thank
list all
you.
of them.
I'm
Yvonne,
so grateful for having me, sis. Thank you so
thank
much.
you so much.
Really
I
grateful.
heart you. And I'm just so happy that I met you. It's just truly amazing who you meet on this journey called life,
Right.
the connections. I have a great sisterhood. I have some really, really good girlfriends, but I cannot just not think about the women that I have met along the way. The thing that broke my heart the most, the thing that brought me the most pain, has brought me so much joy and taken me down this road of creating different sisterhoods. And I am so humble and so grateful. And I thank you. And I thank you to everyone that has just supported me just on Instagram, and even in the private Facebook group that I have. And and now starting to do some video interviews. Thank you for taking me out my comfort zone. I mean, you're the first girl that I have interviewed as far as doing a feature on video. I did my first one with my fiance, where he interviewed me for his podcast. And
you did well. Oh my goodness, you did awesome. Awesome.
yeah, I have his little cup here. So cute. I had to do a separate radio. I'm gonna be you're so corny. But yeah, he's perfect. And I think both of you, because both of you definitely were the people in my corner. And Justin was like, listen, you can do this. Come on, just get on my podcast. And you were another one. And you didn't even know me that long. And you're just like, girl, let's just do this. So thank you so much. And have a good evening, and more to come. And we'll interview you again. And who knows, next time we may see a ring on your finger. I'm praying for all my single ladies. It just can't be one. I want everybody to flourish. My girlfriends, my sisters, and my new sisters that I'm coming with. I truly believe that everyone is gonna find love, and he that finds a wife. So y'all gotta find. So we put ourselves out here. She put herself out here. Yvonne put herself out here. Okay. All right,
Thank
sis. Have a good evening. Thank you so much. And I will see
you.
you soon. Thank you.
God bless. Love you. Thank you
Love
so
you
much.
too. Bye.
Bye.